Hello everybody. I am excited for our Q&A today with the sugar and food addiction expert himself, Mike Collins. I had interviewed him on my YouTube channel and it did really well. So we figured let's do a Q&A Instagram live. So let me add him to the video. His Instagram is Real Sugar Free Man. And we're gonna take all your questions. We're going to prioritize answering your questions if you have any questions regarding sugar addiction, food addiction, yes, relapse, withdrawals, all the good stuff. Mike Collins has been sugar-free for over 35 years and also flour-free for over 35 years. And he has raised 2 children without any sugar from the womb for the first 6 years of their lives, and then after that it was no sugar at home, only if they wanted to outside the house, and they ended up with really no problems with any kind of addictions, and they're successful, fully functioning adults with fantastic brain power and getting fantastic grades. So yeah, let's make sure that Mike can. So I already sent the invite to Mike. Hello, food addicts. Hello, that's 85% of Americans. Hey, Mike. I hope. Okay, it still says unable to join. Why? Why does it say that? Maybe, you know, Mike, maybe try to send an invite from your end, and that way I can accept it as opposed to me sending you the invite. So if you look at the bottom of the live here, you can actually ask or request to join the Instagram live. So that should work. And yeah, so prepare your questions. We are going to prioritize that, talking about relapse. My nails look awesome. Thank you so much. Those are press-ons, but it's a neon pink color. I like neons. I've actually bought a few other neon colored nails as well for the spring. Thank you, Angela. So let's wait on Mike. Try to, you know, send me an invite so I can accept it. So a request to join at the bottom of the Instagram live. Maybe it'll work that way. I don't know why we're having issues having Mike join us on the live, but we'll get it sorted. No worries. This has happened before. Mike says no buttons here. That's weird. You can't find any buttons and any icons at the bottom of the live where it says request to join. I think, can somebody else try to do that? Because I know that, I know everybody should be able to do that. Thank you, Angela. Hey, everybody. I don't know why it says unable to join for whatever reason. But don't worry, we're gonna make it work. If you have any questions, type them in and I'll make sure we answer them. Mike, I wish I could. Oh no, it's not. Okay, so, what should we do? How do we get Mike on the live? Should we try one more time, Mike? Let's try one more time. Invite to join, Mike Collins. Try to just press on it one more time. Let's see if this works. Angela, I have a question. Go ahead, Angela. This is kind of also what we do on the group support meetings that I'm holding every Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern and every Thursday at 12:45 p.m. Eastern. We're basically doing, you know, I'm doing coaching / support for anybody who wants to have that accountability and have some direction on troubleshooting carnivore and also staying sober. So Angela, I'm so good all day, but at night I just binge. Yeah, that's still an addiction, right? Whether it happens in the day or whether it happens at night, it's still an addiction. Nights are a problem. My willpower is gone. Yeah, we just generally tend to be more tired at night, and so we have a less mental power, right, to power through. And so we really don't want to deal with the addiction from a willpower. I mean, yes, that's very, very important, but we want to put in place a plan that minimizes our dependence on willpower, because when you're dealing with a drug and you want to be sober, you really have to focus on abstinence first and foremost. So you can't be dabbling with the drug here and there, because it's simply going to make it a lot harder. You know, it's just gonna create so many cravings all the time, right? And so in order for you to prevent the frequent cravings and to lessen the intensity of those cravings, it is abstinence that is the solution. And the first 2 to 3 weeks are the hardest, right? But eventually it gets easier and easier and easier. It actually takes 2 years for your brain chemistry to go back to normal. So, you know, you really gotta pay attention to everything that you're doing, everything in your life for the first 2 years, to really be able to overcome this, so that you're not working with a brain that has deficiencies in its neurotransmitters, especially dopamine. Angela, yes, it has to be all or nothing. That's the only time I've had success. Yes, exactly. SRTL, would eating aged cheese and raw yogurt be giving into your sugar cravings? No, 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 no. It's not. It is definitely something that has some level of activation of your dopamine centers, but they're definitely not even close to being as addictive as a cookie or a cake. So if that's good enough for you to get through a really difficult time, that's completely fine, you know? And sometimes, you know, the longer you've been sugar-free, even if you're still doing dairy, as time goes on, then you can be strong enough to also remove the dairy from your diet, you know? So I think hopefully this will work right now. I'm trying to get Mike Collins accepted into my IG Live. Come on, accept. Okay, go live, but then nothing. Oh, it worked. I can't believe it. I had given up. It worked.
I can't. I shifted to my phone is what happened. So now.
Well, you were on your laptop?
Yeah, I was on my laptop.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't know if it works on a laptop. That's probably why. Yeah, I don't know.
Actually, it should have worked, but whatever.
Have you done it before?
Yeah, I have, but I've done it on my laptop before, but it didn't work this time. It worked on the phone, so we're good. It'll work.
I was losing hope, so I'm so glad. Yay.
Yeah.
We did it. We were talking about, so we're doing a Q&A, right? We're doing, we're prioritizing questions about food addiction, sugar addiction, recovery.
Okay.
Because our initial interview that went on our on my YouTube channel, it's doing so great. I think it's got like 18,000 views so far.
Yeah.
Yeah. People are ready. People, you know, especially that my audience is kind of like at the cusp, like is the most progressive that you can get with nutrition. They've tried the paleo, they've tried the keto, you know, they did the carnivore, and they're still struggling. And so addiction is the future. It is this next step, you know. And so this is why, you know, this is why I feel like my audience is the target audience to be receptive for the message of addiction, like really receptive and not be in denial and just, you know, joke about it. Oh yeah, I'm addicted to chocolate, you know, but not really believing
that joke is, you know, not funny anymore.
Yeah.
Just not funny. You know, I mean, people say, I'm addicted to bread. I'm addicted to sugar. And then, ha, ha, ha. It's just not funny anymore. The science, you know, especially, you know, my kids are addicted to it. It's just not right. You know, I mean, the science is now, it's like seatbelts and smoking. When the science says it's time to change, it's time to change. It takes a while culturally, you know, socially, but it's really harmful, very harmful.
Yeah, because you would never really joke about heroin. Oh yeah, my kids are addicted to heroin. You know, ha ha ha.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And if just looking at the studies, rats prefer the sweet taste by a large margin over heroin. So we're not even giving them just sweet stuff. We're giving them even worse combinations like cookies and cakes, high fat, high sugar. I don't even want to think of how much more addictive those foods are compared to heroin, right? And so
I think the cruelest joke the universe ever played on us, A, was to make it sweet, and B, this hybridization of fruit over the years, and then the outgrowth of processed sugar. And it literally, if you think about it, if you draw it back 40,000 feet and look at human evolution, and all it really was is an evolutionary wrong turn. The science didn't know that this sweet tasting thing turns out to be a neurotoxin, literally a body and brain toxin that's very powerful. There's no human bodily function requiring fructose. Its only real goal is, I'm simplifying this quite a bit, but is to cause irritation in the digestive system and the bowels so that the fruit passes quickly and the seeds pass quickly. And we are only supposed to get that fructose, and the fructose molecule is identical in the fruit as it is in the chocolate. We are only supposed to get it once or twice a year. We gobble up all the ripe berries or all those little nasty little crab apples, and that was it. Maybe a little honey if you were willing to get stung by a bee. That's it. That's zero. That's how much fructose we were supposed to have every year, starting about 500 years ago. And now we're literally having this constant drip, and it's just really throwing everybody off. And I think you'll find in the next 5 or 10 years that it's already here, but the science will be super clear. Just a couple of days ago, a study came out speculating that fructose really is the cause for Alzheimer's, right? And so you think about the power that it has on your brain, your nucleus accumbens. It really is I always tell people, you want to get off sugar, study fructose. It's the other half of the molecule. So for your listeners, the glucose, we already know. Weight gain, obesity, diabetes, heart disease. This is elevated glucose in your body. That's half of the sugar molecule. The other half, the fructose, is the reason you can't stop, because it's literally creating a psychoactive feeling of self-esteem raise for about 20 minutes. And then you got to go chase that high again, just like any other drug. So I know it sounds like a little far-fetched, even scientific or sci-fi a little bit. But reality, if you've been drilling into the science for the last 3 to 5 years like I have, you would see this very clearly. I mean, it's a very clear, and the part that it upsets me a little bit is I have an addiction recovery background, and that the reality of this is the reason someone on your thing said they relapsed. I like using that language because that's exactly what's happening. They are, they're addicted to the feeling, the dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, these brain reward chemicals that evolved over 10 million years to chase food and sex. You can now hack by sitting on the couch with just Oreos, right? But it doesn't last, and it will turn against you, as you've seen in the rise of obesity over the years. So let's answer some questions and have some fun with it. I don't mean to be the pessimist. I don't want to be the guy that delivers this bad news, but I can't watch overweight children. I think of it as child abuse at this juncture. At this point, this is no longer funny to give children under 4 or 5 sugar, okay? It's just not funny anymore. It's not a joke to watch them stuff that in their face, if they literally are wiring their brain to be attracted to this stuff later in life. They have so many studies now about this that it's not even funny. And it's just that the general public doesn't know about it. So thanks for having me on, and let's help some folks out and answer questions.
Absolutely. absolutely. There was a question about honey.
Yeah.
What do you think about honey? And I'm gonna add to that also artificial sweeteners.
Yeah. No, great questions. And I get a lot of blowback on this, a lot of pushback. It's like honey is more, it has a higher percentage of fructose than table sugar. Okay. And for the most part, unless you're like elite and you know the source, most of that stuff is has added high fructose corn syrup to make it sweeter. And same with agave, okay? The quote unquote vegan, vegetarian, or sweetener, right? Agave is like, they make tequila out of agave, gang. It's like 70% fructose, not like 50-50 like sugar. It's worse.
Wow.
And then the sweeteners, I just had Michael Gorin on yesterday. Dr. Michael Gorin, you can look the guy up. Sugar proof, okay? The hidden dangers of sugar that are putting your children's health at risk and what you can do. And so he gave me this analogy that of all these sweeteners, right? And he's actually literally writing a book about sweeteners right now, because he wrote the book about sugar and he now believes that the sweeteners are a bigger problem, okay? And he gave me this analogy. He had to look it up, but it's less than a teaspoon of one of these new ones in a bathtub will make the bath water sweeter than Coca-Cola, right? And so and they sneak under the law, like they in the 1%, right? Because it's not sugar, so it's quote unquote natural flavoring, right? So it's like natural flavoring, like what?
So natural flavoring can be sweeter, wow, than sugar.
Yeah, it's sweeter than sugar. I mean, think of the, and I got to stop mentioning brands, I'm going to get in trouble, but think of the bubbly waters that you like, okay, that have ascended and that are selling like crazy right now. I won't mention the name. I don't want you to get a cease and desist order, but it's like, those things taste sweeter than soda pop. You know what I mean? It's really sweet. And if you look at the ingredient, it says no sugar, no this, no that, no artificial, but it says natural flavoring.
Right.
Under 1% natural flavoring, right? And so these sweeteners, and here's the thing, Dr. Lewis Cantley, Cornell University, the Cantley lab, the man he discovered one of the cancer genes, KCP, I can't remember what it is. Anyway, they named the lab after him at Cornell, for God's sakes, right? He's been sugar-free for almost 40 years. He said, once the brain tastes the sweet, it looks for the real stuff. In other words, people that are using sodas, artificial sweeteners and all this stuff, all these things and all these keto treats. I mean, just a study the other day came out about erythritol, okay? Erythritol is causing heart damage and heart disease, right? This is very clear now. And this is like this thing that powers all of these keto treats, right? Erythritol. I'm going to get a lot of hate mail on that one too, but it's true. The study, I can send you a copy. It's very real. I didn't do it. It's peer reviewed.
Yeah.
So
I reported on that study 2 weeks ago. You're absolutely right. They even stumbled on this by accident. They were just looking at all the chemicals that might be related to heart disease. And the top of the list that was the highest in amounts in your blood that dictated, or that had the strongest association with heart disease was erythritol. You know, that was a shock to the researchers as well, but they reported the findings.
Yeah. So let me tell you what has happened over, tens of thousands of detoxes and success stories and stuff, is that if you don't understand that you've got to change your taste buds, which change every 10 days or 15 days really quickly, and if you're sensitized to this sweetness of the American diet, you'll continue to be addicted, right? You've got to get to the point where peppers taste sweet and carrots taste sweet. I mean, macadamia nuts will taste like candy. You've got to reduce this sweet taste. And if you're going to try and, I call it wiggle room, Sarah. It's wiggle room. Like they want to just, and folks are not willing to do just, I call it buy into Mikey's little fantasy, right? Just give me 30 days, 60 days, 90 days better. If you can give me 90 days and just stay away from sweet, and eat whole food. I mean, you've got advanced degrees, you've birthed children. Please just give yourself, it's not me, it's you. Give yourself 90 days, no sugar, no flour, no caffeine if you can do it. You know, you talk about this hard 75 or whatever, you know, you've lifted weights to do this, all that running, all that sweating. I promise you, 90 days, no flour, no sugar, and you will lose weight whether you exercise or not. And that's what people think they come to me for, weight loss, right? Or to stick to keto, or to stick to whatever diet. Doesn't matter the diet, as long as it's whole food, okay? And so, I don't know. I don't want to get on a soapbox. I want to answer a lot of questions, but I want to get some basics out for folks so that they understand, you know?
Yeah. And we had a question, what about maple syrup? And I guess it's the same thing, just like honey, right? It is the sweet taste. The studies are showing that it is the sweet taste, not necessarily, it doesn't have to have calories within it. You know, it's the sweet taste that activates and lights up our brain and
Yeah.
is so far more addictive than heroin by a large margin. I can't get over that.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly correct. Look, one of the things that I really stress is that wiggle room thing is everybody wants to know, and you can tell by the questions, what do I eat? What can I eat? I mean, I can't eat bread. I can't eat pasta. What can I eat? There's all kinds of stuff you can eat, first of all. But the main thing is that if you really want to do this, if you really want to accomplish this, you have to stop thinking about the food, okay? It has almost zero to do with the food, okay? And everybody, the $78 billion diet industry has brainwashed us into thinking that there is some plan out there, some shake out there, some pill out there that will help change your behavior towards sugar. And if you do not realize that we started as babies, likely in the womb, and definitely our parents did it to us. We have managed our emotions with sugar for decades. And if you don't understand that you need to break that connection and literally, like learning how to walk again, learn how to redo how you deal with emotions in your life, old stuff, new stuff. If you don't grasp this in this beautiful life that Sarah is providing for you, you're going to continue to try diet after diet after diet, and you're going to continue to fail because you're missing the point. You're missing the understanding of the addictive process. And as Dr. Sarah said many times, it's not, you know, it's truly a substance use disorder. This is the non-stigmatized term for addiction, okay? We have used this product, and when I talk to a woman or anyone who's lost a couple 100 pounds, you know, put type 2 diabetes in remission, put rheumatoid arthritis in remission, they do not talk about the food. What they talk about is their reconfiguring. They're going to yoga, they're going walking, they're, you know, hugging their dog, walking their dog, getting their nails done, getting a massage, the reconfiguring of their emotional management system, right? Instead of hacking it by tough day, sit and eat ice cream on the couch, right? That's how we have traditionally handled our emotions. And this is very clear now. And we have to break in half this idea that it has to do with the food you're putting in your mouth. You're not looking for a sweet taste on your tongue. You're looking for a dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, GABA, cannabinoid receptors, oxytocin to feel like more close to your family. You're looking for this hit with the sugar, not the food. Have I stressed that enough?
Yeah.
I know we don't have like the whole arc of a podcast, so I'm trying to get it all in right away. So go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, I love it. It's a good reminder too. Someone said, what about fruits? You know, I know some people might have them and it helps with their withdrawals, but what do you think?
Yeah, I get a lot of pushback on the fruit too. So let's take the fruit journey, okay? 300 years ago, gang, we had those little nasty crab apples and those little nasty blueberries you see out in the wild, right? And a banana you could not even eat because it was just a seed pod. Really, it had a little bit of fructose, a little fruit around it, just so the animals would eat it. But mostly it was just seeds, right? And then they hybridized. Think of GMO. Hybridized. They sliced it. Think of grapes, seedless grapes and seedless oranges.
Mhm.
You can't grow seedless grapes and seedless oranges in nature. It can't happen. You have to slice the branch so that it's like a whole process, right? And they create fructose bombs. Remember, you want to quit sugar, quit fructose, or learn about fructose. So they get this fructose bomb, right? And the fructose molecule, let me repeat this, I probably already said it. The fructose molecule in that fruit is the same as the fructose molecule in the table sugar. The molecule doesn't change. There's no difference at all, okay? Sometimes processing will change the molecule, but this does not change the molecule. So here we are, 300 years later, and we have this 24/7 access to sugar in these big bananas and these mangoes and these, you know, we have this fructose drip, right? And forget about juice, squeezed juice, smoothies. You're blasting the liver with fructose, right? You're just killing it, you know, with this giant orange juice, right? Same as a Coca-Cola, same amount of fructose, right? Going straight to the brain, giving you a little dopamine hit, right? So you've got to get this, like, look, low glycemic may help mitigate the withdrawals a little bit, okay? But you want to, like, test your body out for 30, 60, or 90 days to see if you can, you know, how you do. Because I guarantee it, you do that and do 100% abstinent, in 90 days, you drink a big glass of orange juice, you'll be as stoned as you drank a Coca-Cola or ate a big chocolate bar. The fructose hit in your brain and in your liver will, you know, and that's what I try and get people to do. You really need to heal up from this abuse that's happened for decades. And once you heal up, you end up able to feel in your body how this stuff treats you. What, you know, you get tired afterwards, you get a little depressed, you get kind of blue the next day. Really, really strong stuff happens when you break the addiction and have a little freedom. So
Yeah. And it could be a trigger, right? So it
trigger
could,
just like the sweeteners, yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody asked, I can't remember who, but I remember the question about the 12-step programs. Would you recommend them for sugar and food addiction?
Okay, you got about an hour? Okay, so look, I'm what I call a 12-step anthropologist, okay? And a 12-step anthropologist is someone who's studied all of the 12 steps and been in them. Look, the 12 steps saved my life, okay? 38 years ago, I walked in a room with Narcotics Anonymous and it saved my life, okay? I have all due respect and love for the 12 steps. I think it's the largest personal development program, most successful personal development program on the planet, okay? But, and this is a huge but, in the evolution of the food programs, the first one was OA. OA does not name an abstinence, meaning you can use flour and sugar. You choose what you want to use in Overeaters Anonymous, okay? And I've seen people struggle for decades in OA, and they have the grace and you know, I separate the spirituality out from the science, okay? That's what our programs do. That we're very similar in our support structure, our peer-to-peer support structure, but we do not outsource it to a higher power. We outsource to science, okay? And so as they evolved, people from OA decided that if you quit flour and sugar, you'll be more successful. So I think the main one is Food Addicts in Recovery Anonymous. Food Addicts in Recovery Anonymous is a very progressive group, and they do name an abstinence, no flour, no sugar, okay? And so I think, you know, and then CEA How, and then this is another one that sounds identical, but it's Food Addicts Anonymous. It's a different program than Food Addicts in Anonymous in Recovery, or so they're different. You'll see. But Food Addicts in Recovery, Food Addicts, yeah, I don't know, whatever. There's two different ones,
Okay.
but they all name abstinence as well.
Mm. I couldn't hear what you just said. I think you got a phone call, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I killed it. So
Yeah.
what I said is, like, it just depends on your, these are spiritually based programs, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And if that works for you, more power to you. I'm not here to dictate people's religious beliefs. All our stuff, the main driver of 12-step programs is the peer review nature, or the peer recovery nature. It's the community that solves the problem, and not the higher power, in my belief. Okay.
Right.
And the science is the more important part. And the science, and the problem that I have with the 12 steps, which I do love, but and I respect, is that we cannot bring in other new information. And this fructose information is important. You know what I mean?
Okay. Bringing new information.
It's a tenet of the principles. No outside information. Can't talk about it. Can't do it as a sponsor. Theoretically, I mean, people do it all the time, but I mean, and so it's stuck a little in the past. Back in the day, anonymity was important. Okay, anonymity. You would lose your job and all this other stuff. And it's still kind of the case with alcohol and drugs and food at some level. But the reality is that society, evolution, everything advances. And right now, see, people make a mistake, and this is a little bit of a tangent, but it's not really, I'll bring it back, is people believed that people were outed in the gay community during the AIDS crisis in San Francisco because they wanted to be mean or something like that. But the reality was that they were outed to get health care, okay? And recovery to get health care and attention to the AIDS crisis. And health care for addiction in general sucks. 100,000 people died last year of addiction, okay? Like overdose, right? And millions of people are dying every year from the diseases caused by sugar addiction, okay? Obesity, and all the metabolic diseases that go with that, okay? So we're in a place where there's no more need in my world. Like I don't speak for the 12 steps. In my world, anonymity is not useful anymore. This is a healthcare issue, not a moral issue, okay? So anyway, I don't want to get off on that, but I think it's a very important question. Whoever asked it, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your questions. We're prioritizing your questions today. So anybody who's joined us lately, send us your questions. We're talking about sugar addiction and food addiction with Mike Collins himself. You've been 35 years sugar-free and flour-free. That's incredible. And recently, grain-free as well. Are you still doing carnivore?
Yes. And I'm going to KetoCon to speak about it. It's one of my newest experiments. I quit the grain sugars, the grains, the fruits, the fruit juices, the dried fruits about 7 years ago, and really saw an elevation in my health, my wellness, my skin. Like I saw you and your husband kept saying, "I'm old, dear." I'm older than him, and exercising with guys half my age. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Actually, it's funny because when I met my hubby, he didn't do any of the vegetables, and he was mainly carnivore, but he wasn't doing it like as strictly, as I don't know, it takes my voice out when I get a phone call. I'm on some list, a gazillion scam calls this morning, but and I would get into, arguments with him, not arguments, but I'd be on his case all the time. You got to eat your vegetables. And it turned out that he was right. As a matter of fact, the only vegetable he ever ate was spinach. He would literally just put a bed of spinach and then grill some meat on top. He wouldn't even use salad dressing, just pure spinach.
You know, because it's like it's healthy for you. The moment he stopped doing that, his lifelong debilitating low back pain completely went away. We were about he was gonna do a laser surgery, you know, with the risks involved, and he really didn't want to do that, but there was just no other choice. He couldn't even sleep enough
Right.
because after a certain number of hours, the back pain would start, and we couldn't go on road trips. He couldn't be seated for so long. And it was all about the spinach. And it turns out it's the aquaporins. It's a type of plant self-defense chemical found in spinach that mimics water channels in our bodies, especially in our nervous system. And there's actually papers written on that. So when, you know, when I discovered that, I did a whole video. People want to know more. There's a deep exploration of the paper on what aquaporins are on my channel, AQUAPORINS. So, you know,
Yeah.
he knew before I.
Spinach is one of the highest oxalates too.
Yes, yes, exactly. High in oxalate, high in so many things, and you don't get any of the iron because it's bound to the oxalate. So you're not even absorbing the iron. So that whole cartoon, the papaya cartoons that, you know, you get all your iron from spinach, that's completely
Right.
false.
Right. No papaya.
Yeah. So let me ask you about what to do when people are going through it. You know, when you're going through a bad episode of feeling almost depressed. I mean, there can be some very intense withdrawal symptoms that occur when
Yeah.
people get
Yeah.
sober. What advice can you
Well,
give people?
first of all, thank you for using the word sober because I think that's appropriate. Okay. And yes, the withdrawals are nasty. I can't sugarcoat. I got to think of a better word than that. I can't sugarcoat that. They're nasty. It's nasty. You know, you're lethargic. You're irritable. You want to kick the dog. You know, you're mad at the kids. You're just irritable. You don't even like your own self. You got headaches. You're hungry. You're starving. And let me drill into that really quickly. Is that starving, that growling stomach is not a food response. It's not hunger. It's a drug withdrawal response, right? And that will pass, and normal natural hunger will return. Okay. So, and there's about a million other things, you know, rashes, breakouts, because, you know, finally your body's saying, you ever heard this term, worst in, first out, right? That's why people that have diabetes and pre-diabetes are peeing all the time, because their body's just working its ass off to get the sugar and flour out. And then when it finally gets that out, it starts to dig deeper into the fat. Some nastier toxins that have been pushed into the fat because it didn't have time to get it out start to come out. And then you have breakouts, and you have acne, and you have this, that, and the other thing, you know. And that happens. So here you are, irritable, broke out face, you know, like starving to death, tired, depressed. And look, you're not, and again, I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on the internet, but you are not, in 95% of my cases, you are not like needing to go to a doctor for an SSRI, you know, for a depression med. Your dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, your brain reward chemicals have stopped being beat on. Like finally you gave them a rest, and it will take a while eating whole natural food and good hydration for them to come back to even. One of the things about sugar addiction and any kind of addiction, when it progresses, it's not to get the buzz or the high anymore. It's just not to feel terrible and go through the withdrawals, right? And so that's why when people turn back about day 5 to day 15, they're just so nasty. They got a meeting they got to go to. They can't be this bad. And then when they take that candy bar, it takes the withdrawals away, and they're like miracle, right? And then they have done one good thing. They've brought it now to the consciousness, okay? Because before, sugar was so available, you thought it was part of your life. You start to feel a little low at 4 o'clock. You eat the thing, whatever, it goes away. You start to worry about this financial issue, this boss issue, whatever. You eat the thing, you drink the thing, whatever. Now you don't feel it. But it still comes back the next day. You still got the boss, you still got the finance thing, right? And you drink it again. And so this keeps happening. Like, you don't think about this is why you're doing it. My job is to make sure you bring this behavioral feeling stuff to the surface and understand this is what you're doing to yourself. This is what you are, this is what the sugar is for. It's not the sweet taste. It's for momentary feeling better just for a little bit. But that always turns on you and also causes obesity, heart disease, diabetes, Alzheimer's. And so when people grasp this, I screw up their sugar because it's no longer pleasurable because they know what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
And so that's my job, is to let you see what you're doing, that you are actually self-medicating your emotions with different levels and types of sugar and flour. That's it. That's all there is to it, really.
Exactly.
And you can get through the withdrawals. Think nicotine here, gang, not heroin or alcohol. It's not life-threatening usually. Some people with really bad habits who haven't really eaten any food over a lot of decades, just all processed crap, their withdrawals are really difficult. You know what I mean? Really, like if you're a couple 100 pounds overweight, you've never really eaten proper food. And this sadly has a lot to do with socioeconomic class sometimes. Food deserts and people who don't have access to this food, and manufacturers have made it cheap. So
yeah,
be careful, but it's not life-threatening usually. Okay, you can get through it by just getting through it. You got to muscle a little at the beginning, but then you got to take some.
Exactly. And sometimes people hear that, okay, sugar addiction, the withdrawals aren't life-threatening, so it's not really a serious addiction. I'd like to remind everybody, heroin withdrawals is not life-threatening. Nobody dies from opioid and heroin withdrawals. Doesn't mean that it's any less serious or severe, or that you can ever stop doing it easily,
Right.
Yeah. Mentioned something earlier about how, I'm not a doctor and I don't play one on the internet. However, you know more than 99% of doctors when it comes to the real root cause that they should be pioneering, as opposed to just numbing down their patient's symptoms by cutting out body parts and putting them on pills, making zombies out of them, because they don't have the time to do the support, to do the education. So, you're doing far more important, more impactful work than 100 medical doctors can.
We said this in drug recovery. I learned a lot more from bikers than I ever learned from doctors. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
Like people who really genuinely got sober, right? And
right.
The same thing is, and look, I am one of the most underrated, understood wellness healing therapies on the planet is peer recovery. People who have walked the walk before and are now willing and wanting to teach you to do it, right? And this is even peer-reviewed studies of heart disease, kidney dialysis, people that join support groups double and triple their life expectancies as opposed to people that go it alone. Forget about the drug and alcohol world. It's the only solution. It's the only way. People go to treatment, they have a view of Malibu, they eat great food for a freaking 30 days. And if they don't start getting, going to meetings and getting relationships with people who are also sober, they don't make it. They go back, and this is the same thing in sugar because it's not well known. People in your family, likely your spouse, people are not going to be supportive, and you would think they would want to be, but they're not going to be, and you trying to make them is not going to change that. You need to go to the support systems that exist, which are, Sarah's groups, my groups, whatever. These are groups where people think like you, think like you're, you want to quit sugar, you're studying it, you're spending time on what's today, Wednesday afternoon to listen to this. So anyway, I just, you're right and I thank you for the compliment. And really, it's just people that have done it before wanting to help people that want to do it, pretty much,
True. Angela, yes, you gotta, you know, either like Mike said, and I have some clients who, by the way, are in both your group and mine.
I have, yeah, yeah,
The more support, the better, you know?
yeah, yeah. No, your viral video was really good for business, by the way.
Oh, good. I'm so happy to hear that. You know, you deserve all of these people. You are doing the right work. You are the food addiction work and the sobriety work. This is the future, I see, you know,
Oh,
because I can
I
see
agree.
from work.
Look,
Yeah.
it's not me now at this point. I got 12 coaches and thousands of people in these support groups. And honest to God, I don't pay them a dime. They want to help. They like, I'm 30 days, I'm 60 days, I'm 90 days. I've lost this, I've lost this. I don't have rheumatoid arthritis, my doctor said anymore, Bob. And then they just start gushing and helping the guy who comes in and says, I need help. And they love to help each other. This is the beauty of it. This is the love. This is the, you know, and I don't want to get too out there, you know, woo-woo, but it's very true. People, it's the funniest phenomena that when people get, and I learned it back in the day about sobriety, but when people get off the sugar and the flour, they truly want to help other people do it because they see so many benefits, right? And so it's a real magic to watch. I mean, again, I mean, I do create the vessel that they can, the groups, but it's them doing the work, the peers, the people who have already got off the sugar that help one another. Because I'm only one guy. I can't possibly interface with 10, 12, 15, I don't know how many thousand people they're in there, you know what I mean? So they have to help each other. And look, the world is much smaller now. You can text and call, and it doesn't cost a penny. You get on internet and blah, blah, blah. You got yourself a brand. We call them sugar buddies. It sounds like a drinking buddy, but I don't know. That's what they started calling it. So yeah, it's really cool. I mean, it's
I love
fun
that.
to watch. Yeah.
I love that so much. Let's talk a little bit about PAWS, post-acute withdrawal syndrome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Can you share a little bit about that and also maybe your experience with that?
Yeah, PAWS is interesting. As you said, it's post-acute withdrawal syndrome. And I used to call it, that part of our program, 30 to 365, meaning like you can get off this stuff, but you know the research as well as I do, Sarah. 95% of anyone who loses any amount of weight gains it all back in the first year. Isn't that, I mean, that's just crazy to me. Like they did something very great. They lost the amount of body weight, whatever it is, and then they gain it all back and they add some, right? And here's why. What we've discussed before. Maybe life was good at that time. They had a good exercise program. The job was good. The relationship was good. Everything was good, right? Kids were good. Then all of a sudden, 3 months into this, you're down 40 pounds, you know, you lose your job, you can't go to the gym, the kids are a pain, you know, something comes up where you have to deal with an emotional thing in your life, right? What happens? Without what we've explained in the first few minutes of this event is that people fall back to the one thing that did work unconsciously, not even consciously. I mean, they know that eating ice cream is not a great thing, but a little bit won't hurt. And then they just fall back and then they gain the 40 pounds back and then they add some, right? So post-acute withdrawal syndrome is very acute in methamphetamines, okay, and cocaine and that kind of stuff. Really bad, really hard because you pounded your feel-good chemicals in your brain so hard that it takes a really long time to come back for you. It's called anhedonia. Is that right?
Yeah.
It's like inability to feel joy.
Yeah.
Okay. And you have some of this. If you've had a really bad sugar problem, you have a lot of months of anhedonia. It's hard to feel joy, right?
Yeah.
But I can promise you that your joy will come back. The sun will come out if you stay the course. Now, one of the things in my program that's a little bit different than other programs is I try and get people off of caffeine. Because caffeine, wired together, fired together. Chocolate, coffee, tea, right? It's like the sweeteners. Once you're tasting the caffeine, you're like, where's the other part of this buzz? You know, John Belushi died of a speedball, right? Uppers and downers, right? That's caffeine, right. Sugar, right?
Right.
And so when you're eating chocolate, you're taking the edge off your sugar addiction and your caffeine addiction. You're just taking the little edge off, you know, take that withdrawals away. So and the caffeine withdrawals are really, really bad. Okay. They have the worst. I got a little caffeine group. There's a larger one on Facebook if you want to check it out. But it just takes a long time. And these are people likely who are using sugar that are in those caffeine groups. But the reason I'm telling you all this is because unless you understand that the healing process takes a good year to get you emotionally stable, you're bound to fall back. And if you don't do what we've talked about earlier and separate out that this is not something you want to put on your tongue to taste sweet, that you're looking to adjust your emotional feelings, your emotional view of the world by a sugar product, if you don't separate that out, and if you're not with those peer groups of people that you can say, my husband was a pain, and if you don't have a processing partner or a way to do it, a therapist or a good spouse or whatever, you're bound to fall back as well, because you can't do this in isolation. You just can't. Like, it's too hard. Your brain wants that dopamine. This is a 7 million year old process that was created to keep the species alive for sex and food. And if you can feel better by eating sugar, your body will do it, and it will trick you into doing it. Okay. So you really need to be, once you detox 30, 60, 90 days and you get your abstinence, you need to have peer support, and you need to have other support to understand and overcome the emotional part of this process, right? So we've gone long enough now. It does take about the arc of a podcast, about 30 to 40 minutes for me to get all of this information out so that people can be exposed to it, and then reach out and to you or me or others, a lot of other educators and groups and stuff, and try and get their support system in place as they go through this, right? Isolation will not work. You do need, and PAWS is the reason, because it lasts a while, even when you're abstinent, even when you've got to your goal weight, right? You're still gonna, I tell this story, I'm gonna open KetoCon with it. So I changed the name actually, but it was a guy, but I'm changing it to a woman. But it was, he had lost 60 pounds, right? He had lost 60 pounds, or no, 100 pounds on keto, right? But he had 60 pounds left to lose. Life was good during that 100-pound. He had a great job. Then his job changed. 3 people in his family died, his father, his aunt, so a couple of, and he was the executor on all the estates. And he had this relationship with this woman for 12 years, right? And so I couldn't really figure it out, but he had plateaued at the 60 pound. He had 60 pounds left to go, right? And he kept eating peanut M&Ms, like intermittently every 3 weeks. And he never moved for 6 months on that, 60 more pounds to lose, right? Come to find out, every time he was going through that emotional stuff with the deaths and everything. And that was part of it. But then there was that relationship with that woman, okay? And that relationship, like, was volatile. And every time he used these peanut M&Ms and binged, there was some dust up or something going on with the woman, right? Well, today, that 60 pounds is gone. That woman is gone. The estates are all settled, and he's back to the goal weight. And it wasn't anything. The guy was brilliant when it came to what he ate, and he was fastidious. It really was, he knew what he was doing. He knew as much as I did about the diet, right? The diet part of it. But what he didn't realize or put 2 and 2 together was this emotional time in his life, this relationship, was causing him to relapse back to his old patterns, right? And so if people get that at a deep level and understand what's going on in their life emotionally, then they will move forward. If they think they can do this by macros and supplements, and it's not going to happen. I've seen it thousands of times. It's just not going to happen. It's really, you know what I mean? So
there's a reason why the dieting industry is a $76 billion industry.
Billion. Like, and they're all selling some program of food, pills, shakes, but not one of them is addressing what you and I are talking about today. Not one.
Nope. You gotta have that drug, right? To sell anything, you gotta put the drugs in, and
Yeah,
it's in the form of the maltitol, xylitol, erythritol, stevia, all of them.
they're they're all playing with those brain reward chemicals more.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
and they're making you crave the other. You know, crave the. I call it the high test. You know, it's like you're drinking beer, you're looking for cocaine. Well, you're
wow,
eating erythritol, you're looking for sugar.
wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, no wonder nobody can drop weight and lose it, and maintain it. It's the weight loss is so much easier than the maintenance. Although even with the weight loss, people are struggling, you know?
yeah. No, that's you said that very well. The maintenance is easier, or the weight loss is easier than the maintenance, because the maintenance is like, oh, could I have a little? People ask me, you know,
Right.
do I have to do this for the rest of my life? And sometimes, you know, I say maybe. Sometimes you do. Sometimes biochemically, your body's just not going to be able to handle that stuff without setting up the cravings, right? And so, yeah, I mean, it's a tough pill to swallow socially because of the ingrained nature of celebrations and sugar with everything. And so people think they need to be partaking in that, right? And I know it's hard at the beginning, and I have empathy, but you know, like you said, 34, 5, I don't know how many long my kids are. I don't want to tell you, but they're older than that. You know, it's like, so it's like I haven't had sugar and not missed it, not a wedding, not a party, not a nothing. Doesn't faze me in the least.
Wow.
Doesn't in it, and I live a beautiful life that full of great things, and I don't miss these things that society says is important at these celebrations, which, as science has turned out to say, is a drug now. It's a neurochemical, a neurotoxin, and it's affecting our brains. And I don't want to ingest that. And I want folks to know that life is possible without that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the lows won't feel as low after your
Right.
brain chemistry, right,
Yeah.
is healed. And you'll forget that there is that option of turning to sugar every time you get stressed. You know, you can't eliminate stress from your life. It's life. It's gonna
Yeah.
happen. But you can eliminate that direct highway, stress, sugar. You know, that can wither away the less you exercise it.
You said that very well. And literally what you're doing is rewiring your brain, right? So there's no attraction, there's no thought. And one of our processes is self-care, right? Learning to soothe yourself, right? And so when you think about sugar, walk the dog. When you think about sugar, go to yoga. When you think about sugar, go to the massage parlor. And so eventually, when you have a stressor, or you think you're going to go to sugar, it's immediately the wiring in the brain has you go walk the dog. It immediately has you go to the gym. And so you don't, and it literally, I, like everyone, for the first 4 or 5 years, I, thought, well, maybe I have some sugar or whatever. But after that, never thought of it again, never thought of it again. And so, because I know that for sure I rewired my brain. And when you talk about kids, and we have a kids summit coming up, is like you, as a parent, want to wire your kid's brain right at the beginning and not have them attracted to this. You'll find that the entirety of the rest of their childhood, from 3 or 4 to 18, is going to be a very different experience if in those first 3 years or 4 years they're not wired for this sweet taste. And it's not that they're wired for the taste, they're wired for knowing that they feel better. They know that they feel a little better, and they have a very strong brand new developing serotonin, norepinephrine, GABA, brain reward chemical system. And that shit, it hits hard. Like, it really does a number on their poor little, expanding brain. And so I would plead with you not to feed this crap to your kids,
Yeah, it's the hardest though, I have to say. It is the hardest to get children to stop eating sugar, especially if they've actually tasted it and they know what it is. And then you send them off to school and everybody's using around them, right? And
Yeah.
and you have your class maybe has 30 other kids in it, and you've got 30 birthdays in a year that you have to go to.
Yeah.
You know, they stand no chance.
I agree. I've always been an amateur futurist my whole life, and 50 years from now, they're going to say, you know, they used to give sugar to kids, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
We have 20 seconds. Instagram, new rules. We only have an hour, so that's an hour I July. So I have 15 seconds to thank you so much. I will post it on my YouTube channel, and I will post all of the links so that people can find you and your website easily.